Apple time.
Yeah.
All right, I'll bring the Town of Culpeper Planning Commission regular meeting to order. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Serio?
Here.
Ms. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Clemens?
Here.
Mr. Flanagan?
Here.
Mr. Fitzsimmons is absent.
There's a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Comments and correspondence from citizens, visitors, and delegations in the audience. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment on any matter not scheduled for a public hearing. All right, moving on. Unfinished business.
Nope.
New business. Preliminary subdivision plan, MSR 5003, 2024, Summer Station. Staff will introduce an application for a preliminary subdivision plan entitled Summer Station, consisting of 220 single-family lots on tax map 40-160, 4161, and 419.
Good evening. I'm Louis Pancotti, Town Planner, and I'll be presenting preliminary case 5003-2024. This is a proposed subdivision of 3 parcels located in the most northern part of town bordering the county. They are currently zoned R1, which allows for lots of at least 10,000 square feet. The parcels make up almost 130 acres, and the preliminary plan proposes a by right subdivision of 220 single-family lots. So here you can see the proposed layout. Access to the parcels is provided by an existing 50-foot right-of-way easement from North Main Street that begins in the county and crosses over into the town. Once the road enters the subdivision, the right-of-way for the internal street network expands to 54 feet. The road network within the subdivision leads to 7 cul-de-sacs, and a secondary access was not provided, but as you can see here, the plan shows another potential development, Jameson Crossing. To the east, it is anticipated that a future design will allow for access to the public road through this development. As you can also see, the property does have some constraints, including difficult grades, wetlands, floodplains, and impacts to the dam. The preliminary plan has been through 1 round of review with the Technical Review Committee. Once the plan is deemed to meet ordinance requirements, it will be forwarded to the Planning Commission for approval with conditions or disapproval. At this point, there are several outstanding issues that will need to be corrected by the applicant. Staff at this time wanted to introduce the plan and at the applicant's request bring 2 issues that came up during the review to the Commission. The first is conformance with the comprehensive plan. The subdivision ordinance states that a preliminary plan must allow for, or must show, compatibility of the proposed subdivision with the comprehensive plan and compatibility of the development with the planned street and transportation sections of the comprehensive plan. The comp plan categorizes these parcels as Growth Area 1. This area is designated for traditional neighborhood development. The comp plan states that development of this area would be enhanced by the completion of an outer loop road and a new collector road running through the site. The growth area map shown here shows this new collector road in brown. The collector is also shown in the transportation plan map of the comprehensive plan. Collector road is a street that provides land access service and traffic circulation within a residential, commercial, and industrial areas and distributes trips to and from arterials. Per the FSM, they require a 60-foot right-of-way, a bikeway, large street trees, and 11-foot travel lanes. The Summer Station plan shows all streets within the subdivision to have a 54-foot right-of-way and are categorized as local streets. Parking will be permitted on one side, which would make the travel ways 10 feet. A parallel parking spot per the FSM requires 8 feet. Sidewalks are proposed on both sides of the street, and as mentioned before, the new road leading into the development will be located on an existing 50-foot right-of-way. The picture to the right here shows an overlay of the comprehensive plan of the summer station plan and map 1 of the comprehensive plan. As you can see, the road network is largely in conformance, except for that collector road and its connection to East Fairview Road. The applicant has stated willingness to extend a reservation of right-of-way to Fairview Road in the instance that the parcel is developed, thus creating a connection to Old Rixeyville Road in the future. Staff notes that the existing off-site right-of-way being 50 feet does restrict the applicant's ability to provide the collector road. The connection and continuation of a 60-foot right-of-way to Fairview Road is not feasible at this time given the existing adjacent development and the topography, which is shown there on the left. Without that connection, the creation of a collector road does not seem necessary, as the road will operate more as a local street than a collector. Also, the commission should keep in mind that the comprehensive plan is mainly a guiding document and not fully regulatory in nature. The other area of concern is block length. The subdivision ordinance states that generally the maximum lengths of blocks shall be 600 feet, and the minimum length of blocks upon which a have-lot shall have a frontage shall be 200 feet. The plan shows blocks that exceed 600 feet. The map here shows the streets that exceed the length in yellow. The orange line approximately shows what will be a connection in the next submission, taking care of the block length issue for Street C there. As for the block between Streets A and B, the applicant has expressed interest in applying for an exception. Town council can grant an exception to the subdivision ordinance where the applicant can show the provision would cause an unnecessary hardship if strictly adhered to. The applicant states that creating a connection between the road would result in additional parking restrictions due to site distance, as well as the construction of existing storm structures and handicap ramps. As for connecting Street C and B, the applicant notes similar site distance issues and a vertical 26-foot vertical separation. Staff is in support of that exception related to the connection of C and B due to the physical restraints, but not entirely for the exception between, or for the block between streets A and B.
Liz, can I just pause you for a second,
Yes.
just so we can point out to
Yep.
to the planning commission? So this is the proposed connection between A and B that staff has concerns about the variance request. And this is the proposed connection between B to C that staff is more receptive to the request.
Proposed by whom?
Proposed by the applicant. So the applicant would look to, staff is more supportive of not making this connection because there's significant grade here, as well as with the curve, there would be site distance, safety concerns. Staff is less supportive of not making the connection between those two blocks.
So at this time, the planning commission is just being asked to provide feedback to the applicant on both issues. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have for me, and the applicant is also here.
So while we're on this slide, does the orange road coming up, that proposed road coming up, does that then satisfy C?
I forget is that C?
Yes.
That for that block length, it would provide the break.
That's all that it's required?
Correct.
Okay.
Let me tell you a concern I have, the second entrance. We got a lot of homes there. It's a safety issue without a second entrance.
Yes.
And I personally don't think we should approve it unless there's one.
And
Figure out
that
some
is
way-
That one's
correct.
not on the table. They have to provide the second entrance.
It's just at
But
this time they haven't.
Yeah, but they can't
But-
build any over 80 houses if they don't.
Right.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, that is
Oh,
correct.
okay, we are gonna put the restriction. They can only build up to 80 houses until they have a second entrance.
Correct.
And we wouldn't be able to approve a preliminary plan without them showing that entrance.
But they actually can't produce. Laurel Park, we made them put in a traffic circle because they didn't have a second entrance. So it'd be wide enough so you can have emergency vehicles coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to be careful about that.
Right. Yeah, this one is in
Yeah,
my mind.
we talked about second entrance too, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, and they're aware, and that's why they're working, and again, that second entrance, that was the discussion, that secondary entrance needs to be a publicly maintained street as well.
Absolutely.
Because that was the issue with the question because the adjoining Jameson Crossing is proposed to be townhouses, which currently are only be permitted to be served from private streets. So they're gonna be looking to amend that application to have the public street coming through to provide this sort of central spine road of a public street for access.
So I have a technical question, I guess, that you can probably answer. So in the comp plan, I mean, this whole thing is actually, fits pretty well with what's in the comp plan in terms of internal street design. But what is the technical challenge? I mean, there are 3 exits in the comp plan. I mean, there are 3 roads in and out. So there must be some issue. Is it wetland? Is it topography? What is the issue that prevents those two roads from just showing up?
Sorry.
Go ahead,
Definitely
Louis.
the one to the west. I know it shows like a northern one. That one is wetlands. There's a stream right there that makes that kind of not feasible. Let me go to that, or I can go to that.
So that's the Fairview one.
Or no, that I was talking. That would be this one.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay. Yeah,
Fairview
okay.
is-
It was this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The issue and the concern that we have with the connection to West Fairview is the lots along West Fairview at this stage have largely been built out, at least closer to Old Rixieville, and they sit fairly close to that existing road, which is a substandard road by current town standards. So in order to approve it to serve a large development like this, it would need to be brought up to current town standards, which would mean improving and widening that road. That widening would likely impact some of those existing homes that have been constructed there. So it's not simply a case of acquiring right of way. They likely would be needing to tear down some of those existing structures in that instance.
The reason for the second entrance is for emergency vehicles. If it's a substandard road, you can still get an emergency vehicle through it.
Correct, but they are going to have a second entrance. The second entrance
no,
is
no,
going
I
to be through
understand.
Jameson Crossing. This would be more the aligning with the comprehensive plan and making it a
That's true.
collector road
Oh, okay.
that runs all the
Gotcha,
way through.
Gotcha.
So again, the question of a secondary entrance is one is a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
This is more the scope and scale of the primary road through the development.
So for me, the question is the developer, sort of, who, right? If the comprehensive plan does not match reality, then it's very hard to hold a developer accountable for a reality that even the town itself couldn't produce. Right? I mean, so that is essentially on this first question. That's it. All right. What other pieces are we? Well, we're missing. Is the idea of the collector road the idea that it goes through? I mean, otherwise, right? Without those 2 other pieces, there is no collector road. It literally is only serving local traffic.
That's the way we look at it from the staff's perspective. And so
Okay.
that's why we feel that reducing that from the 60-foot expectation for the collector road down to a smaller width for the local street is a reasonable request in light of reality versus what was ideally desired in the comp plan.
Confusion is if there were practical reasons that you couldn't build the collector road as envisioned in the comprehensive plan, why is it there? I mean, on the one side, you've got this showing, oh, well, we can just get through here. It's no, it's wetlands. And then the other 2 streets are substandard. So why would you pencil that in the comprehensive plan to begin with?
Again, I can't speak to the specifics of when it was adopted. I believe that map dates to 2013.
Yes.
I know that just in my time here, and let alone the years that preceded me from 2013 to 2020, we've had several homes that have been approved and constructed on West Fairview that may not have been there at the time. So there may have been a greater ability at that time to conceptualize the improvement of West Fairview to a road that was able to meet town standards.
Right. And so on the 600-foot break, does there need to be an intersecting road, or could it just be like a green space?
The way I believe the blocks are defined, it does require a road connection or some sort of transportation connection, I believe, to delineate a break.
So it couldn't be a greenway or a walking path or anything along those lines?
No, the way we've interpreted it would be an intersection of some sort.
The other thing that's interesting, because and the applicants rightly pointed this out, when you look at that conceptual plan from 2013, the block lengths are similar to what they have proposed. The standard was adjusted in 2018, I
Yes.
believe, to the current one of that goal of generally.
Yeah, and it went from, believe it was 1,500 to the 600 was what it was reduced to in
Right.
2018.
But-
And the other thing, just to point out here, you can see things like the cul-de-sac streets. So the ones that kind of stem off of those have a different length requirement. They can be, I believe it is also 1,500 that a cul-de-sac street can, is the maximum for that. So they can be longer, but the block has to be 600.
You can go back to the slide you were just on.
Sure.
The issue with this, I mean, so these are two totally separate issues, right? We've established that it's pretty tough to hold them to a standard that the town couldn't hold itself to, and that the comprehensive plan and this picture may not be appropriate for what is reality, right? So, based on that assumption, I don't know how we would use this picture to make a case on exception 2. The picture is bad, right? I mean, it doesn't match. So now you can have a discussion about 2 that is completely independent of this picture. So the issue with 600 square feet, and looking at sort of the site plan, you're talking about 13 houses in a row, and you think about it on any other road in town, you just have a straightaway, right? So the question is, how long does it take for a car to get as fast as that car can possibly go from one stop sign to the next stop sign? So if that's 6 houses, then maybe it's not quite as fast as 13 houses.
Well, in a quarter mile, they're saying 6 seconds, 60 seconds. Was it 15 seconds? That's great.
Right. And yeah.
Oh, no, that's 0 to 60, not a quarter mile.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's close to that, though.
Yeah.
15, fast car, 15 seconds, yeah.
And John will back me up on this. Every single one of those lots is going to have 2 cars parked in front of it.
You're right, you're right.
Right?
And somebody in the street.
Yeah, right. So now I can go 50. I've got 2 strikes. The first kid who rolls a ball in the street is gone.
Yeah, and there's only collector items in the garage, no cars.
Right. And so it's interesting is that idea of you're really just, I mean, there's a health and safety and welfare issue involved. And that's probably why that 600 foot, is in there to begin with. I mean, when it got written in, it was probably written in because, planners at the time recognized that is safer. And so, this is the one that I guess, causes me a little more concern.
I rolled to North Point the other day, and I don't know why. And it's just this long stretch, but there's plenty of traffic coming because of all the cars parked on the street. It's just all jammed up, and you just seem to go when there's, townhome, 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 townhome. And they seem to just go on. This looks like the subdivision that the town took over behind Lowe's, and I can see a stop sign at every one of those stupid intersections, and it's like, oh my God.
Wait. But you're saying that because you are trying to cut through that neighborhood to
Right.
get wherever you're going faster.
Right, but
That is
without,
not the point of local streets.
right, and it's supposed to be 25 miles an hour, and
Right.
it's supposed to just be,
It's supposed to have traffic calming measures
Yeah.
on it.
But Jim, look at Virginia Ave. We built that, it's a nice road. Now we got 8 four-way stop signs on it. 8.
Yeah.
It had none
Right, right.
when it was originally built. And there were cops looking on the street with cop cars out there. People still sped.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting to me is going forward. I mean, there's all kinds of, conversation. I understand that there's an economic driver to get a certain number of units. And if that magic number is 220, that's great. But it is interesting that sort of in the planning community, this logic of, or this idea that maybe 10,000 is not the magic number for a lot size for single family. Maybe it's 9, which all of a sudden gives you some more space in the front, or maybe it gives you enough space to take 4 take whatever it would be, 4 houses, 8 houses out of the middle and put them somewhere else and still get to 220. I mean, I don't know. Unfortunately, you plan in the cycle with the rules that you have, even if we know that there is, conversation about whether those rules are, totally match the demand.
I think a lot of their problem is the 100-year floodplain is impacting a lot of what they've got running around because of all the streams.
They also have, in immediate proximity, the Soil and Water Conservation District dam in that area that does serve to help retard some of the stormwater coming into town. So there's considerations that have to be made for that as well.
Is there gonna be 2-story?
I'm not sure about all that, maybe a question.
Would the commission like to hear from the applicant?
Yeah,
They're all gonna be 2-story? Okay.
Mark, if either of you want to come up and just share.
I didn't really plan to address the commission, but
right.
my name's Mark Sims. I'm with Tricord, Land Development Manager. This is a project I've been working on for a couple of years now. We were requested the waiver on the block length. Really was what was the biggest issue with that was coming off of the cul-de-sac and having that 20 foot of grade difference at the very end, and we could not make that work. That would require retaining walls, and it would not only the cost, but it would be a maintenance issue for the HOA and for the town going forward. So we didn't think that was the right thing to do. The engineers were working on laying this out, this is a typical layout that we've used on most all the projects that we do. We read the standard of the 600 feet that came up later in planning, but the way that it was worded, it was a generally that's what they would what was preferred, but it wasn't a requirement by the comp plan. So we just developed it, the engineering and the way that we do most of our projects. I do want to point out that we're also installing, as part of this project, well, it's a separate plan, but it's part of this project, but we're doing a 3,000 foot sewer outfall that runs from this project all the way down into town, which will take some of the properties that are on pump stations currently, will eventually be able to tie into that and take that responsibility off of the town to maintain those. And then it'll allow some of the other properties through there, such as a school and such, to connect into that trunk main at some point in the future. So we felt like, that was a, huge expense for us, but we felt like that was the right thing to do. And that's the reason this project has been around for many, many years, is having someone that's willing to do that, to install that off-site sewer. And I can tell you that's been a challenge, engineering-wise and obtaining all the right-of-way that we needed. K. Hovnanian Homes is the contract purchaser for Jameson Crossing. And we have a relationship with K. Hovnanian as a development partner. And we look to hopefully in the future work out, and we've kind of got a handshake deal that we would be the developer for that townhouse portion as well, and try to tie these projects together. And it just makes sense. It makes sense economically, and it makes sense for the town and the disruption it's going to cause. And it would, helps keep the cost of the homes down to something, I don't know, attainable is the word, but, so we just felt like it was a good project, for the town. And
I was there, by there this morning, and there's a church right at where Duke Street comes in.
Yes, sir.
With a for sale sign.
Yes, sir.
You involved in any of that stuff, or do you know what's happening?
I don't know what's happening, but I went to our partners and asked them if they wanted to buy a church, and they said
okay,
no.
gotcha.
But I was interested in that. I don't know why they're selling the church.
Okay.
I don't.
I thought it was gonna be part here.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that it came up like that.
So the plan is to turn the streets over to the town when they're done, is that these will
Correct.
become public, so we're talking about public snow removal, public trash removal.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And we've had several meetings with VDOT and with town on the streets and all the connections that we were making.
Be a homeowners association involved there?
Yes, it would be a homeowner association.
Okay.
So my other concern with streets of this length is I'm sort of coming into it, right? And I get to, I think the design does a really great job of dividing the traffic. So there are certain cul-de-sacs that are obviously going to take Road C, and some are going to take Road B, and some are going to take Road A, which does a really good job of sort of, spreading the pain out for the people who live in the middle.
Yes, yes.
Now, but my concern would be in the middle of the block, right? It's trash truck, school bus, mail truck, ambulance. Now, all of a sudden, if I'm 4 houses down that and the ambulance is at the end, I am stuck. If the road in the middle went straight up, all of a sudden, now I have so many more ways to get around any potential jam.
We should require streets to be wider
We should require streets to be no longer than 600 feet.
and wider.
And that's, yeah, so I'm just like, so there's logic to all of it. I understand your point of view.
Right.
And I get the number. I understand that like the unit number matters. And so, that's, to me, it's unfortunate that the answer isn't 229,000 square foot lots that all of a sudden have the roads that you need.
But you can make the 600 feet by taking out a couple houses.
Right, right.
So you go
Right.
to 210
Yeah.
houses
Well,
instead.
and the
Well, you
other-
take 8 units out.
And the other thing is,
Or 10.
in engineering, we'll typically when we get to the engineering part of the project, we lose lots because of the constraints, and this was very tight. And, we know that on one of those cul-de-sacs that we don't want to build a 20-foot high retaining wall to stick a house on top of it, so we will lose lots there. So we will, I don't believe we'll make 220 at the end of the day, but we may, but I would be surprised.
And so you have more experience with this than any of us. What is, so, looking at C to B to A, and that, I also understand the concerns on the, sort of the left side of the picture here for the cul-de-sac. That makes perfect sense. But in the sort of just square rectangle box section there, what are we talking about in terms of grade differential between elevations of, say, C to B to A?
It was like 8 feet. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
Bruce Price, Land Design Consultants. Yeah, so we're looking at about 12 to 14 feet of grade difference between streets A and B. And I believe B and C, it's pretty
Alright, so
similar. It's dropping off considerably.
A story.
Yeah, so one of the other points that I think we were trying to make with the block length was 600 feet to us seems more applicable to an urban setting. I mean, this is a low-density residential, and I know we've all been through those subdivisions, and you have streets that are much longer than 600 feet, so it seems a little short, in our opinion, which is why we, laid it out the way we did instead of putting 600-foot blocks, because you'd only have about 6 houses in between the streets. It just seemed a little much. In addition to extra storm sewers at all the points of curvature, handicap ramps, just more public infrastructure. So it's something we considered. And so if we did put a street through there, we'd probably have to put some small retaining walls along the sides to get the houses to grade out, just due to the fall between the streets. Because it's a fairly hilly site, so the longer streets definitely help in tying everything. If you keep everything too connected, it gets kind of tricky to grade it all out, in 3 dimensions when everything's tied together so tightly. So
Some of that stuff will help have walkout basements.
it'll help.
Well, you have a house here, and it
Yes,
drops
it
off,
helps,
you have
yes.
walkout basements.
But once you add the street in between, then all of a sudden everything gets closer
okay.
together,
Right.
and it makes it much harder. And
Okay.
we might have to put a
But the
wall.
walkout basement is more expensive.
It's more
house-
desirable, I think. I'd have to ask him, but
Yeah.
And it works on one side but not the other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. The other side is just the opposite.
Yeah.
Right.
yep, so that was all I had to add.
And I mean, I think the town's perspective, at least from staff's one, is that essentially, while we traditionally have been an exurb and a suburb, we are becoming more urbanized. We are becoming denser in terms of our development, and so that's why our feeling was that 600 was implemented, was a recognition of that. So it's again, it's a little bit of the difference of where we have been versus where we want to be going forward. So.
It's just, it's unfortunate. The longer streets, you're getting, it's unfortunate. I obviously live in a part of town where I don't have to get in a car to make every trip I want to make. I understand that there are neighborhoods that where that is the case. This is going to be that. The people who live in this neighborhood are going to get in their car to do everything that they have to do. And this design doesn't do anything to increase the potential for walkability anyway, right? So it's shorter blocks. Right, I'm just thinking of multiple modes of transportation. We're already talking, right? There's no collector streets. There's no bike lane anymore. There's there'd be less incentive for anyone to develop commercial right in the front of the neighborhood because everyone's getting in their car to go somewhere else. So why would they stop? Right there on North Main when they're in the car, they're going across town, and so anyway. We've seen other neighborhoods just like this, and it's just unfortunate.
I'm sitting here, my brain is just trying to wrap my head around the 600 feet since there is no reference scale. But it just seems to me in my simplest mind, if that orange stripe is going to be a connector road, why not have that thing go all the way up to whatever street where it's right above sheet 8? So you just go up there. So basically you just take everything in there and you just turn it. and you should be able to have, I don't know if the density's gonna work out or if the grade's gonna work, but bam. It's not gonna be 600 feet, but it might only be 800 feet.
Oh, yeah.
Without a scale, I have no idea. But everything works on paper.
Right, that's the issue. I mean, yes, it could be in 2 dimensions, and it could be built, but it's just, we believe that it's more challenging, just more maintenance. It just didn't seem practical to have 600 foot. It just seemed very short for this size house, you know, these size lots. It just seemed more applicable to more, like I said,
It's funny.
a denser
Yeah.
development.
And
So
it's all relative. I mean, 10,000 square foot house, I mean, my lot is 10,000 square feet in the middle of a downtown block. And so
Right.
these are exactly the same. And so, right, so I mean, part of it is, of course, this doesn't look like my neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
But it isn't my neighborhood. I mean, I appreciate that it isn't my neighborhood. But I still think it does still present a challenge, and it does still sort of explain why the 600-foot requirement is in there to begin with. So.
So again, we're not looking for formal action, but I believe I've heard from Mr. Clemens and Mr. Flanagan of a preference for a connection to be made in that instance. Mr. Serio, did you have a leaning?
Not really,
Okay.
not really.
Ms.
Talked
Schmidt?
about it a little bit earlier with making that connector through, so I go along with that.
So I think generally what I'm hearing from the planning commission is that there would be a preference for that connection to be made in that instance. And I think there's generally sympathy for that connection on C that was proposed with the more significant grade where the existing cul-de-sac ends, that's not feasible. So again, the applicants will be submitting variance requests to town council because this is a part of the subdivision ordinance. And so there is that ability for them to request the variance or the exception to town council. So we just wanted to bring it before the planning commission so we could convey to council what the planning commission's general feeling was on it, to allow them to make their decision with as much information as possible.
And I would also note on the same that it seemed like we had close, I mean, we can poll the group for that too, but we had some inclination toward consensus that the original comp plan does not match reality as far as turning the thing into a collector street.
And that one is that one essentially ends with the planning commission as you look at the preliminary plan and coming through it, because part of what you're tasked to look at is conformity with the comprehensive plan for the preliminary plan. So it was more if you had raised any significant concerns, we would have, with the applicant here, shared it with them to try and come up with a workable solution. But we did work significantly with the applicant in the lead up on the transportation connections for this. We explored multiple different options of ways to do it. And really what they have proposed is the one that seemingly made the most sense to us from not only a economic perspective for the applicant, but also minimizing disruption to existing properties and existing property owners as well. But again, because that language is in the comprehensive plan, we wanted to bring it to the planning commission to let you see it, let you weigh in on it at this stage, to make sure that there was a comfort level with that, because it is deviating from, a strict interpretation of the comprehensive plan and what it shows.
Mr. Bryce, could you answer one question for me?
Sure.
Because we don't have a scale in my mind, just won't let it go. How wide are the lots? 100 feet?
80 feet.
80 feet, I
And
believe.
how deep?
They're 10,000 square feet, so was it 110?
They're all the same square.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
the ones in the blocks in the middle
Probably
are-
120
Okay.
feet deep.
Yeah.
So if basically, if you
100, yeah,
were
whatever the
to
math.
stand the middle road on its head, you'd have the 600 feet.
Going north-south, plan north-south, be, yeah.
So you do have it. It's just, you'd have to reorient the streets and the sewer laterals and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, we'd have, I don't know that would work topographically, but, yeah, I'd have to check it, yes.
On paper, it looks like there's a possibility of it only being 650 feet, which would be a lot easier to give away than 1,000.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'm going to throw a real monkey into it because that's what we do. I mean, I actually appreciate the traffic. I do appreciate the traffic flow of what is proposed here. because it evenly divides all of the traffic. And I want to recognize that if they connect all the way through, like Orange all the way up to A,
Well,
then 60% of that traffic is going down Orange, straight through those townhomes. No one is ever going over to that other street.
And that was why, sort of in our conversations with them, what staff had recommended was simply the connection between A and B, not coming all the way through
Yeah.
to tie in to C. So essentially simply connecting those top
Right.
two.
But then I don't know that the road would be, it would make the block length, but it probably wouldn't be very practical road. It's just to meet the
right.
requirements.
And it would provide alternatives in the event of the school bus, the trash truck,
Yeah.
ways to
Right.
circumvent those.
And it would slow people down as they're coming from the cul-de-sac at the top and trying to get out to the road.
And there, I would never go through the towns to get out. It's just too, if you live anywhere else, it's too many turns.
You're going through the towns to get out of Lowe's
Right.
now.
Yeah.
So,
As I get older, I follow the traffic lights. It's just safer.
yeah, well, that's true.
Someone's gonna get a ticket if I get hit.
Yeah, so if we did put the A to B, I mean, we wouldn't anticipate putting stop signs on the major roads anyway. It would be more on the side streets coming in, so I don't know that it would slow down traffic going, left to right.
Yeah.
You'd have
You'll
to
have
have,
the option
Yes,
of putting the stop signs
Yeah,
there.
then
Yeah.
that would be a question, yeah.
And if the traffic shows that it needed, it can be put in later.
I mean, it
Without
definitely puts a lot of pressure on a road, on a plan that isn't even your plan. I mean, that,
What is theirs?
no, I mean, what I'm saying is Orange South, or Orange Down is not even, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but that's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of traffic on Orange Down. Right through townhomes.
Yeah, because this way, most of the traffic would probably take Road B in the middle,
They would just go straight,
go straight through B and then go south.
yeah. Now, what are the intersections that are, that is so interesting, I mean, what would those intersections look like now, is like on this left, sort of, would that be, I mean, where would the stop signs be now? I mean, as this is drawn now, I mean, you'd have a stop
Yeah,
sign,
there'd be four-way, I mean.
they would all be
yeah.
3 or 4 way,
Yeah.
okay.
Now, the orange one coming in, to be honest, I hadn't thought about if we're gonna put stop signs on the other street. I wouldn't imagine we would. I would think it would just be on the orange road where it's tying in.
I think you'd have to
I think
stop
you'd
them, or
have
else
to do it
nobody would ever be
three-way.
able to turn left onto Orange.
Probably on
Yeah.
on each side of the Orange Road.
C.
See?
See,
Oh, see,
yeah.
see.
I'm going that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I'll see, yeah, so Orange would come in and you'd have stop, it'd actually be a three-way stop probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So it is
But I
interesting.
don't know the town would, how Public Works would.
When we get the planning, we'll have that conversation with showing that alignment.
Stop signs.
What's that?
You only have a stop sign on the Orange Road only, and let the green travel through, you'll get more people going over to Duke. And you'll be cutting down some of the traffic on the Orange.
I mean, that's where we'll have to ideally look at what the trip distribution is on the different roads and see what the volume of traffic is and see what's warranted and what's not.
Yeah, and we can add that to the, this plan if you'd like.
Show the,
Yeah, the breakdown and all the,
And-
do
I think the next submission, that would be helpful to do.
okay.
I also saw the note on the site plan that says that there's 2 phases, obviously. One is the original 80 that you can do with the one in and out. Which 80 are those?
It's that blue, yeah, the blue line, I can show you.
To the right?
It's this portion, road A and B,
Yeah.
and then half of that block between B and C, where that blue kind
Okay.
of.
Yeah.
So in other words, so right, so this problem this is in phase 1.
Yes.
Yeah,
And then all the stuff on the left, the green is,
gotcha. So if it's a problem to be solved, it needs to be solved before phase 1.
correct. Yeah, and we've already, after submission, now that we're looking at Bald's Run pond over there, we are gonna probably be losing some more lots there due to the proximity of the pond. So we're still working on that, but we're trying to limit how many we are losing, but,
Right. And just for your benefit, because we've had this conversation in a work session, we had discussion I realize this is not your property, but if you're in any way involved in the development of this other piece of property, the idea of having traffic come down and make an S or Z turn.
it's straightened out. There's a new layout that we're gonna,
Okay.
they've been working on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more of a straight, like
Oh,
an
that's
S,
good.
a slight
All right.
S bend now.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, again, as
You're
we
gonna make it
mentioned.
wide
with-
enough as if it was the main entrance, right?
Have to, the other engineers,
should.
we're not working on that one, but we'll have to work with them.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
But that one will be done to town public street standards because it will be a public street running through the spine there of that project.
And that was anticipated in the traffic study as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, so that no action is required on our part.
Correct.
Okay, moving on to other business.
Well, the only other business I guess I want to bring up is the Planning Commission did receive an email earlier today, I believe, from Mr. Andrew Dowdy. I wasn't sure if you wish to discuss that at all at this meeting, or if you wish to hold discussion until our work session. We'll be addressing it in greater detail.
I don't remember
See
seeing
the
it.
email?
Oh, yeah, it makes sense to me that we would hold it till Thursday. That's already an agenda item for Thursday.
I agree.
What's the subject?
The noise, the proffer amendment related to Culpeper Technology Campus.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
All right, moving on to planning director updates.
So wanted to share with the Planning Commission, we had the question come up related to the zoning update and the densities that were being contemplated, the reduction of minimum lot sizes, the reduction of lot widths. I had been working under the assumption when I got here, because the draft was, there was a draft in place at that time that showed reduced lot sizes, reduced lot widths, that was a desired outcome from the zoning update, and that we were looking to increase the density with the overhaul of the zoning and subdivision ordinances. It was raised that there was some concern with that. I took it to the town council's Public Safety, Public Works Planning, and Community Development Committee. They had some concern and were much more comfortable with maintaining the status quo as far as potential densities allowed within town. But they did defer to full council to weigh in on the matter. So we did have the discussion last Tuesday with full council, and full council did direct us with the update to look to keep the densities comparable to what they currently are. So we're modifying the language in there and the standards in there from what had been shown previously to keep them much more consistent with what we have currently. We will have the ability, if there is a desire in the future to increase the densities, to go in and do that. It is certainly going to have an impact on some of those housing types that were contemplated. The semi-attached homes, where essentially they have a common wall. If that has the same minimum lot size as a single-family detached, I don't see there being any desire to construct a structure with a common wall in that instance when you could build a single-family detached on the same lot. I don't think market conditions would make that feasible or practical. The one other thing that I do think that we need to start thinking about, though, is one of the things that's in the existing ordinance that is a limiting factor for some of these other housing types, particularly related to townhouses, is that there's a minimum of a 3-acre development size for townhouses. And so if we want to see townhouses in the future being utilized for any sort of infill development, I think that needs to be significantly contemplated if that's still appropriate, if we want to have that. So I'll task the Planning Commission to start thinking about that, and we'll certainly raise that as we have future conversations about the update. Because I think, again, in the instance of infill development, that 3 acre minimum is going to prove to be a significant impediment to seeing any sort of townhouses utilized for infill development. So happy to take any questions that the commission may have.
So, so town council was not really keen on the idea of us reducing the lot sizes? Is that because there's a possibility that the Commonwealth may be forcing ADUs by right?
I don't think it was related to the ADU conversation. We didn't bring that up specifically at council. I think we discussed it, touched on it briefly at the committee level. But I think it was more just the overall development patterns within town and having that fear of additional growth, additional impacts on the town's transportation network, just what that all could contribute. And so wanting to just be a little bit more cautious in terms of moving forward and not include that in this initial step of the update. Again, they were retain the option to increase the densities down the road, and it would be a relatively easy fix to do so, but at this time with the update, not take that step.
Thank you.
I have a question. Madison Station,
Mm-hmm.
is that 3 acre plot there where those townhouses are?
Madison Station is not technically townhouses.
Oh,
Madison Station was the last one that was approved, essentially prior to me getting here, that utilized a provision where they developed townhouse-style development under the multifamily standards. There was an argument that was made that the townhouses met the same definition as multifamily because they were multiple units within the same structure. That I've since issued a zoning administrator's opinion that in the instance of that, the more stringent regulations apply, essentially. So Madison Station and development in that manner would not be currently permitted. It's the same with the 6 units on Oak Lawn that kind of stand out, Oak Lawn and West.
Right.
Those ones is somewhat circumvented the intentions of the ordinance.
okay, interesting.
So.
Okay, thank you.
On Madison Station, that's a tight subdivision,
Mm-hmm.
just driving down.
Yep. Very, very tight.
We approved it.
Stop.
Yeah, but that's gonna make me
Does
think
everyone
the
stop?
next time.
No bus stop?
Yeah, we did that one.
Mm.
Mr. Director, any other updates?
That's it from me at this time.
Moving to commission member discussion, Mr. Serio. Mr. Clement?
Yeah, I have a couple things. One, I just want to acknowledge that several of us were at the People's Inc. and Senator Warner discussion of housing. So, we're very aware of that, affordable, that housing at all levels of affordability is an issue, and that going forward, we're in a shortage. We're in an absolute housing shortage, so we're aware of that as an issue. The other thing that I want to mention is I happened to be in Washington, D.C. a couple weekends ago where they just shut down 4 blocks of like 7th Street or something to do a presentation on open streets and this concept of open streets. So it's streets that are more friendly to multiple modes of transportation, and the thing that was really great about it was, and what made me realize that that we really need to do more as a commission is we got to get in front of people. We even if they don't want to come, we need to keep inviting the public to come to some venue to see these things, whatever it is that we're discussing. In fact, and on that vein, I wanted to ask, because I know we're on television, can you just let everybody know now, as it relates to what we've been talking about for months, if someone watching wanted to know exactly what their current zoning and zoning that would change, if their zoning would change on the ordinance, what exactly they would do?
Sure. So if you go to the town website and specifically then click on the Department of Planning and Community Development, right on that homepage, we have a link to a hub site that will show you both your existing zoning and the proposed zoning for your parcel under the zoning update. We have there also a listing of the different uses that are permitted within the different zoning districts, definitions of the various uses. There's an ability to submit comments right through that hub site specific to your property or generally. And again, if they have any questions, any concerns, they're always welcome to reach out to our department, to the Planning and Community Development on third floor at Town Hall. Our email addresses are also available through the website.
So I can go to your website, I can put in my address, and it will tell me exactly what my current and what the proposed is.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Ms. Schmidt?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Uncharacteristically, I have nothing to add.
Move for adjournment.
So moved.